academic buildings now. Originally, it was built in 1887, and it was the jail here in town. At the time, it was considered to be one of the most humane jails around. They kept the men and the women separated, and each cell was actually ventilated. At that point, you could hear the little girl laughing with her, and she said, "Don't fall, don't go." She had also told the Can everyone hear me okay so far? Okay. This is Colonial Park Cemetery. It is actually one of 6 cemeteries in the downtown historic district. But this one is the only one that you can still recognize. The other 5 have been long covered up by a lot of the old buildings in town. They used to park the actual carriage. And on the other side is where they would keep the horses. Now we're going upstairs. I want you to watch your head. The landing of the staircase is very, very short. Come on, follow me. Over to that side of the room. For some reason, she didn't call out to him out here. So that's the reason why they put the voice recorder in Molly's room. Now you heard the EVP that they caught, her screaming for help. They played that for Chris, and at that point, he packed everything he owned and completely moved out of here. He said it was exactly the same voice that used to call out to him. He never wanted to hear her talk to her again.
I'm just going to be behind the bar.
The basement area was originally the kitchen for the home. This was the main cooking side, the main stove. And the other side was where they did all their baking and food preparation. The bar had been a dumbwaiter system, and that brought food to the other levels of the home. Now the same night that something grabbed my coat, there was a man walking around taking pictures. He poked his head in this room. He took a few. And on one of them, there was the misty figure of a man sitting on the couch. We had also smelled cigar smoke at the same time. We couldn't really explain that. The pictures right before and right after were perfectly clear. So the infrared cameras went up, and we've been trying to catch him ever since. We've seen a few pretty odd things here. Now, obviously, we're here on camera 4. Camera 2 is where we walked in from the courtyard. We came over to this side of the basement, and cameras 1 and 3 are both in this room. And one night a different group could actually see this curtain in there kind of moving, almost like someone about this tall was walking through the curtain back and forth, but the glass doors were locked behind them. Another night we saw a mist gather strength over here. It moved toward the staircase and just disappeared. And not too many weeks ago, there was a few people in that room, and they could see this very bright orb appear. Now, a spirit orb is going to look very different than all the stuff flying. Now, this room has some of the most documented evidence. The scream that you heard on the video was captured in front of the fireplace. Another night, there was a woman taking pictures, and she got a misty figure of a lady walking toward the bookcase over there. Her skirt will appear in photographs in this corner as well. Now, Matilda's room was right above us. She was out on that veranda that night when she fell outside. So maybe that was sort of a residual scream that we heard. But then again, you know, she also appears to be somewhat of an intelligent haunt, because that was her voice that said, "Get out." That was right over here. The "Get out of my way" was captured as we were starting down the staircase. Now, a few months back, someone brought a picture back and said, "This lady was not on our tour." They brought it to me, and I verified that she wasn't here. Well, it was a woman all dressed in black with long black sleeves, kind of an elderly-looking hand. She was walking up to the back of a man and touching him on the shoulder in this same spot here. So we believe that that was Matilda. Now, people have seen shadow figures over here. Parlor. Matilda was actually caught on camera in this room as a reflection in the mirror. There was a man standing over in this area just taking pictures of the mirror and the fireplace. And then he looked at his camera, and he looked over at the doorway, because standing in the open doorway was Matilda. in her long black dress with a big hoop skirt and her bonnet on her head. Obviously, it's not really the kind of clothing that anyone now would be wearing. Not to mention that the entire tour had left, he had kind of snuck back in to get that one last shot, and that's how we got that. Now there's a portrait in here of Robert E. Lee. He and Frances were actually very good friends. They met in the late 1820s, and they remained close throughout the decades. Lee had been a guest here on several occasions. At one point, he stayed here for about a week and used the library across the hall as his office. Now that room is undergoing some renovation right now, so we're not going in there. But in that room is a huge portrait of Lee. It's about as large as this mirror in here. And hanging next to it is that document that's on the desk over there. That's a copy of Lee's orders to surrender battle. There are nights when people are standing in that room reading that. They've heard heavy footsteps walking up behind them, and they turn around, there's no one near them. Men in particular will feel breathing on the back of their neck over in that area. They've even heard kind of a heavy throat clearing sound, or like a gruff move kind of sound when they're over in that area as well. It's definitely a male energy in that room, which makes sense because the parlor areas were more dominated by Matilda and Molly. They used to do all the party organizing and gathering in that parlor to have their little knitting circle and craft things as well. So